Brown versus Board of Education by Hannah King and Alice McKay.
Brown versus Board of Education was in the year 1954. The decision was unanimous. It overturned the case Plessy versus Ferguson, which represented separate but equal.
The case sparked the American Civil Rights Movement. Many other civil rights acts were started because of it.
The biggest thing with separate but equal was that even though it wasn't separate, it was not actually equal. Also, it wasn't okay that it started by racism.
The case was started by Oliver Brown, the father of 7-year-old Linda Brown, who had to walk 20 blocks to school every day instead of walking 6 blocks to the white school.
Along with Oliver were 12 other parents. The NAACP advised them all to enroll their children into an all-white public school, but they were not allowed to.
The parents used the denial of the enrollments as evidence in the case.
The argument the NAACP used was that white schools said that black kids were inferior to the white kids around them.
The defense said that segregated schools teaches black students what real life will be like. They also stated that it isn't bad for the kids because great African Americans went to segregated schools and still did well. The court was appealed on October 1st, 1951. The hope was to overturn the separate but equal doctrine from Plessy versus Ferguson. The case was whether or not the 14th Amendment was being violated by denying education in a specific school simply due to race. Later in 1954, the Supreme Court had reached a unanimous decision.
Chief Justice Earl Warren stated, "To separate elementary and secondary school children from others of similar age and qualifications solely because of their race generates a feeling of inferiority as to their status in the community that may affect their hearts and minds in a way unlikely even to be undone. We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities and inherently unequal."
This was only the first step in making the U.S. schools more equal. A year later, the Supreme Court created procedures under which school boards would desegregate their schools with all deliberate speed. The decision was not attempted by many. Many schools that had been previously segregated for years fought back.
3 years later, federal troops had to escort 9 black children into a high school in Little Rock, Arkansas. Even 6 years later, the state officials were still fighting the ruling. In 1979, Linda Brown Thompson even went to court again to sue Topeka for allowing their schools to remain segregated.
Even though Brown versus Board of Education hasn't solved all racial tensions in this country, it has made a huge impact and sparked so many other movements and courageous acts.
The following are examples of the acts, laws, and movements encouraged by Brown versus Board of Education.
Here are a few pictures of acts, laws, and movements in a church song.